Hey, Nick, we need a tagline for the podcast.
No. Real life opinions. Movie reviews told by fans and not critics.
I'm so proud. We actually had an intro today. It's been like 2 episodes. We've been slacking.
Yeah, we've been really bad about the intro, haven't we? It's what happens. Those that don't know, in the Spotify world, we've had to change our recording techniques.
Yeah, thanks, Spotify.
Yeah, thank you for making things more difficult.
Yeah.
I see all those Riverside commercials about like, hey, you want to make podcast making even easier? And I'm just like, you have not done that.
Yeah. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you for making it infinitely more difficult for me. Like, there's more stuff you can do with Riverside than what you could before, but like, it is definitely not made it easier. Let me tell you.
Unless we're just old and set in our ways and we can't figure out how to change.
Yeah, with the podcast we started a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
We're like,
we're seasoned pros now.
Yeah, we've been doing this for so long. Remember the Spotify of old, back when Spotify was cool.
Yeah. We're on episode 67.
We're really?
Yeah, we're chugging along.
Hey, what are we doing for 69? We should have saved American Pie for 69.
Oh, maybe, hey?
We should have. Oh, well. That was a missed opportunity.
Have you ever heard of the movie Sex Drive?
Yes, I have.
Maybe that could be the movie.
Nice.
That was a great
movie.
No, it wasn't, but...
yeah, I was just like it was a movie.
Yeah. It was a very movie. I just like James Marsden in it, to be honest, and he was a side character, so...
You know what? He's a little underrated, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, I try to think back after, I think it was Sonic he was in, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, how did this guy never become, like, an A1 leading man?
Because then he did Hop.
Well, yeah. That was terrible.
I mean, there was something about him I never really liked, and then when he did Enchanted, I'm like, ugh, this just fits him. And then with Sex Drive, how he's like, the big brother is like, you're a fag, everything's gay, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the movie, he becomes gay. I was like, it was after that movie, believe it or not, is when I actually started liking him. So, and that movie was, I think, 08 or 09, so... Anyway, what are we doing today?
Oh, we are on the hunt for the perfect trilogy, if such a thing exists.
So we need some more interaction already. We say that a lot, but I think this is the time I want people to chime in the comments. Send us an email. I don't think you have our email. Don't send us an email. Send us an Instagram. Send us something. Just let us know. I want everybody to chime in. What's your favorite trilogy and what makes it your favorite trilogy?
And yeah, so we're gonna discuss on here, you know, if the trilogy rules can kind of be bent a little bit, like, so, you know, sometimes there's a trilogy that's not really a trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then you take, like, there's certain movies where the third one is the legacy one, and then if you watch Scream, you know, the legacy sequel is not part of the original set. It's a reboot, essentially, but not.
So when did Scream... Because I never seen after 3. To me, Scream 3 was where I stopped.
It's a good ending.
Yeah, well, it was the end of the trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it legitimately was. Now, I know Scream 5 is a requel, but what's Scream 4?
Scream 4... It basically had everything to do with Woodsboro, but nothing to do with Sydney as herself. Like, her cousin's in it, and she's kind of one of the characters in it. And then Sydney does make an appearance, but it's not focused on Sydney, so it is more of a spin-off than anything with Sydney in it.
That sounds like a search for more money.
It was kinda. It was a well done movie, but
oh really?
It's similar to what you were saying earlier. It's a well done movie, but doesn't mean it cracks my top 3 or whatever. So
yeah, I think I was using the Iron Man trilogy, right? Like, objectively, if you look at storyline and how it was made, everything like that, Iron Man 3 is the best of the trilogy. Subjectively, it's by far the worst. I know people hate on Iron Man 2. I kind of love Iron Man 2. It's got my favorite Marvel villain in it. But
why is Whiplash your favorite Marvel villain?
It's not Whiplash.
Okay. Just checking.
Whiplash is not my...
Justin Hammer?
I love Justin Hammer.
Yeah.
The MCU need more Justin Hammer.
Sam Rockwell's pretty amazing, so...
I can see Mike's eyes rolling right now. They're like, oh... He's just a one-dimensional caricature. Like, yeah, that's why I like him.
He did come from a comic book from the 60s. Let's
well, right.
Nobody cared about backstory back then. The majority of these movies now, like these comic movies, doesn't matter the publisher, they're trying so hard to backstory when the character was just as fine without a backstory, so...
You know, I love all the Easter eggs and everything like that, but at some point it gets like... You just gotta let the character, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's... Again, I remember reading my comics at 10 years old. That's when the X-Men 1 run kicked out with Jim Lee, and there was no backstory in those, but yet they're the most successful Marvel comic series of its time.
Jim Lee drew comic books like an action movie. That's what he did. The Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane,
Greg Capullo in DC.
Well, I was gonna say Rod Liefeld. All those Liefeld. All those guys that went off to Image.
Yeah.
They were maybe lesser Todd McFarlane, but they were the action stars of their era, right? Like it was all about big and bulky and explosions and chests that stick out 6 feet on these characters.
Gen 13 was a great series.
It really was, actually.
Image was great. It was basically started by McFarlane as guys who were too good for Marvel and wanted to do better.
I think it was 6 of them altogether.
Yeah, it was, but it was spearheaded by.
Yeah.
Alan Silvestri was another one. Mm-hmm. He got big in the X-Men near the end of its major run there, but he was a huge factor in Image Comics. I remember the other guy now. Not
a lot of those original guys stuck around, eh?
No, they each got their own little run of their own brand, and that's one thing they had, because they were, I can't remember who was interviewed, it was probably McFarlane saying, you worked at Marvel, they told you what to draw. You did not have any creative flexibility. And so that's why he opened up Image, because he let the artists create their art. And that's what happened, but like I said, a lot of their artists, they got their run, and then they sort of disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jim Lee's big in the head office at DC.
He's the VP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his Batman and Joker drawings are intense.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited because I'm such a big Jim Lee fan that he got to be in charge like that. Like, he would have never got that power at Marvel, and so it's good that he went to a company that, saw his talent. If you ever see him draw, he's lucky. I hate to use that word, but he draws like 10,000 miles a minute, and they end up turning into something. But I to say he's absolutely skilled is, without the color and the inks, I think he'd be okay at best.
That's an interesting statement of yours. Like I think he's a better than average artist. Would you not say?
Well, he is now, but I find his old work, like the X-Men's, everything like that.
Some of his old work was pretty,
Yeah.
There was a lot of style, not a lot of substance in his drawings.
Yeah, 100%. And like Liefeld always got harassed for his feet. And they even make fun of that in the Deadpool movie.
I loved that at the Deadpool movie.
But Jim Lee drew the exact same feet. They were basically diamonds, is all they were. And Jim Lee took a lot of shortcuts.
Now that you mentioned Deadpool and Wolverine, how does that fit in the pantheon of trilogies, since we're talking trilogies today? Like, I almost feel all those movies are terrific. Like, I would say I like 2 the least, but like 2's pretty darn good still, right?
The more I watch 2, the less I like it.
Yeah?
So.
And it's like the Iron Man 3 thing. Objectively, the story-wise, 2's got the most story plot and like personal development. So objectively, it's got better story elements than the other ones, And
but if Wolverine taught us, or Deadpool Wolverine taught us anything, the more substance in a Deadpool movie, the less people care.
Right? Like, the first one was such a basic story. Mm-hmm. And it worked because the character was amazing.
Yeah. Well, Ryan Reynolds breathed life into that character that nobody else could have.
So, could we say definitively Deadpool is not a perfect trilogy because of number 2? Or is it not a perfect trilogy because it's not... Like, does it... To be a perfect trilogy, does it need to have a story run through it?
I think so.
Yeah?
I do. Otherwise, they would just be standalone movies, in my opinion. I think it needs some sort of continuity.
And the Deadpool movies, like... There is no, like, the characters are through, but there is no through storyline with those.
In my head, the storyline that connects all of those movies is Deadpool trying to find Wolverine. Because he talks about him in the first movie, he talks about him dying in the second movie, and then he brings him back in the third movie.
You know what? You could be onto something that I never thought of. Deadpool's overarching arc is to get Wolverine.
I mean, he is an anchor being.
But Deadpool's Marvel Jesus. Come on. Spoilers for those that haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet. Go watch that movie. It's the most fun you'll have in the theater the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's one of the best popcorn flicks I've seen in a very long time. So,
there's something about seeing like a big fight scene on the silver screen. Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah. I think I was saying this once before, but I went to Force Awakens in IMAX 3D, but the only seats left were like row 3. Ooh. So I've got a 100-foot screen in front of me in 3D glasses. I didn't know where the screen ended. I felt like I was right in the middle of the movie, but my neck was killing me, of course.
So Star Wars. There's an interesting case for trilogies. Now...
Oh, and this is definitely going to get brought up. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's got to get brought up. Like...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a trilogy of trilogies.
Yeah, it's like arguably the most popular trilogy, shy maybe Lord of the Rings.
Is Star Wars still a trilogy?
Yeah, because they keep saying the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and whatever the hell the other...
So how come that like, we were talking about Die Hard, and your wife's favorite trilogy is Die Hard.
Yeah.
But it's not a trilogy anymore, right? What differentiates Star Wars trilogies from, like, Die Hard? Like, there's clearly a different style in the later Die Hard movies. That's why
especially when Die Hard 4 went PG-13. He couldn't even say his line in it. And then Good Day was just awful.
I think number 4 was okay. I've forgotten both those movies, to be honest.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. But there's 6 of them now, right? Is there 6 now? Good Day to Die Hard. Live Free or Die Hard.
That was 4. Yeah, 5 was Good Day. Wasn't there another one?
I feel like there's a number 6. You know what? Maybe there's not. Maybe I thought there was, though. I'm gonna have to take a quick Google break on this one.
I think with Die Hard is 4 was universally hated, 5 was multi-universally hated.
Multiversial.
Oh yeah, if there was more than one universe, they'd hate it too. And whereas the first 3 were so well received that people just pretend it ended at 3.
So they were supposed to make a 6 and they didn't.
Okay.
That was what it was. So thank God. Like they were supposed to make it with John Krasinski.
Really?
Which, you know what? I could see. I'm not advocating for a reboot, but like, hey, John Krasinski, I could see pulling off a John McClane type character.
After his Jack Ryan, he showed how versatile he really can be. Because he was pretty one-dimensional in The Office, and everyone's like, oh, he can't do anything. He just stares at cameras and blah, blah. But he's proven he is quite the versatile actor.
The original, I'm going to count the original Die Hard trilogy as a trilogy. Because it used to be packaged as a trilogy and everything like that. Yeah. It really changed its style. But that one's not a perfect trilogy to me because 2 is good, but not great. Like
2 is essentially the first movie in an airport.
Yep.
So
well, it's kind of funny with how the escalation of the Die Hard movies. First, he's saving a tower. Then he's saving an airport. Then he's saving a city. Then he's saving a country. And by the 5th one, is he saving the world?
I don't even remember the 5th one.
I think he's trying to
save... I even own it and I don't even know.
I'm pretty confident at the 5th one he's trying to save the world.
Probably.
So I always thought that... Because I remember he was trying to save the country in the 4th one. Which I always thought was hilarious.
Totally. it was cute in the fact that the 4th one had the daughter in it. Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously not the same actress, but still had the daughter in it. And the 5th one had the son in it as adults. So that was cool. I mean, Jay Courtney, is he the guy I'd pick? Probably not. But still.
To be John McClane's son, like, he was kind of like, you know, he had the receding hairline, you know. He was in good shape, but, you know, he didn't look like an action star at that time, right? Like
no, and he peaked for 10 seconds in the limelight, and then now he's kind of gone again. So.
Oh, Willis?
No, Courtney.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was, like, going to do the comparison. Like, he's not a John McClane looking kind of guy.
No, not at all. Not at all. He was funny as Captain Boomerang, and he was okay in Genesis. Terminator Genesis. So
one of the few redeeming qualities of that first Suicide movie was Jay Courtney, I think.
I mean, it was all Harley. That movie was all Harley. So.
Oh, man. They were so... I wish they would have picked the lane with the first Suicide movie. Like, you know, you wanted to make it kind of... Like, I like the direction they went with the second one. But they could have done something a little bit more fun like that with the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't commit to the dark and gritty, but they didn't commit to the fun and stuff like that either. You know, you got to commit to one or the other to make a good movie, I feel like.
I honestly, I love the second one. I do. But the Suicide Squad is probably my favorite DCEU movie.
The Suicide Squad?
Just Suicide Squad.
Really?
Except for the villains. They were awful, which is funny because DC is known for having great villains and terrible everything else. But that movie, the villains were awful. Well, you know what I mean, because they're technically all villains. But the antagonists of the movie were not any good, except for Amanda Waller. But
Amanda Waller was amazing.
She was absolute, and I'm so excited they're keeping Viola Davis through because she was the perfect Amanda Waller. Wasn't quite as big as the comic, which is not a bad thing, but she was a freaking whale in the comics, but.
She was quite big, right?
Yeah.
It depends on who draws her, though, right? Like, it's same with anything.
Anything, yeah. So,
I am shocked that that's your favorite DCEU movie.
Yeah.
Is it because of the Jay Leno's Joker?
Jay Leno, eh?
Yeah.
Gave up daytime TV to...
you know who I meant.
I know who you meant. Anyway.
Sometimes my pronunciation is not very pronunciational.
No, I honestly, take away the tattoos... And Jared Leto is probably my...
Jared Leto. And now I want to see Jay Leto as the Joker. Hey!
Take away the tattoos, and Jared Leto is actually my second favorite Joker.
Behind Nicholson?
Yes.
I'm a Caesar...
Caesar Romero?
Yeah, I'm a Caesar Romero fan. Bam! Pow!
I know, all these Heath Ledger fans are probably like, hanging up in our podcast right now. So,
you know, that's the best Batman movie.
Yes.
There's a trilogy.
Yes.
That
was getting brought up.
That was getting brought up. Is that going to be your argument for the perfect trilogy? No.
But it's in my top 3 for sure. So.
Well, I don't have a list.
I don't either, but like metaphorically top 3. So.
So why isn't it your number 1?
I think it's because as great as they weren't fun, and I'm such a fun guy for movies. I love a fun movie, but it strikes off so many yeses in the category. If we were to make a checklist of the perfect trilogy, it probably checks off every box, but there's other movies that I find more fun to be.
I feel like the first one was weakest.
The first one was Christopher Nolan dipping his toes into Batman, right? Like, I mean, we're like, okay. and he's like, okay, let me ease into it. Let me see what I can do. And then once he finished that, and he got his confidence, and he got his footing, and he delivered. And I mean, argue as much as people hated Rises, I think Rises was still an amazing movie.
I don't understand the hate for Rise.
I know.
Like, I feel it. You know why Rise got hate? It's the same reason why Marvel gets hate now. The problem is, after Dark Knight, where do you go?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was such a high point. Like, how do you follow that act, right?
And it's his own act. He can't follow it. So.
And I thought, I'm with you. I thought Rise was an excellent movie. The best Bane that's been on screen so far, I think.
The comparison being Batman and Robin?
Well, he's had some cartoon iterations too.
Okay, I know you're going that route too. Okay.
Like, well, you gotta, because Bane's just... for DC, he's like a new character, right? Like, I know he's been around for 30 years now, but like for DC, like a lot of their characters are...
He wasn't also brought out in animated, right? He was brought out before that, right?
He was... Nightfall was his introduction, and I want to say that was 92.
Okay, so it was right around...
Yeah.
Because 92 was also when animated started.
Yeah.
So it was right... Because I know Harley was created in the animated series.
Bane did show up in animated,
He did,
I know.
yeah, and that's why I was wondering if that was his thing or if there was a book. So
No, you know the Nightfall storyline,
I
right?
know of it. I don't think I have it.
I'm surprised you don't.
Don't quote me. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I don't. I have Hush. I have. Actually, I was gonna buy a Long Halloween the other day. I found out.
Ooh, that's a good one.
But I didn't. Yeah, I have The Man Who Laughs or The Batman Who Laughs or whatever.
Oh, those are. You know what? I've been getting into the Batman Who Laughs stuff right now. At first, I didn't like it because I was like, this is all substance over storyline. But you know what? It's a fun read watching a Joker-esque Batman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you got to like the sequels of the Batman Who Laughs?
Well, I've got the graphic novel, so I've got the the collection. So
because like he ends up like, can I do some spoilers for that?
Oh yeah.
He ends up getting Dr. Manhattan's powers somehow because comic books.
Yeah.
So like, imagine the insanity of the Joker, the cunning and intelligence of Batman, and the power of Dr. Manhattan.
He doesn't like walk around naked all the time, does he?
I think he's got clothes on.
Okay.
He likes to have his clothes on.
Dr. Manhattan really needs to take a cue from someone, so...
It's like the scariest fucking thing comic books have ever come up with. Like, it's just like... Batman's scary with prep time. The Joker's scary because he's insane. And Dr. Manhattan is scary as fuck because he's so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
So
So the first one brings that trilogy down, right?
Yeah, it's an upward trend, right?
Yeah.
So that's...
Oh, I don't know if it's an upward...
It's a peak and valley, yeah.
Yeah, like it goes... Starts here, then goes way up, and then dips a little bit. The Scarecrow is the only character that shows up in all of those, eh?
Yeah. Cillian Murphy is freaking amazing, so...
Still a shame he didn't get Doctor Doom.
Yeah, right? Right? That's who I wanted so badly.
I could see that being like an amazing Doctor Doom. They still get a chance to remedy that, right?
So here's an argument I'll make, but I'll ask your opinion first. Who was the weakest link in the Batman trilogy?
Like who do you mean weakest link?
The character.
Like, which character?
Yeah.
Ooh, jeez, if I had to pick, like, overarching or in specific movies?
Doesn't matter.
Jeez, that's hard to pick.
See, for me, it's not.
It's not Gordon for sure.
No.
Oh, it's Jason Gordon, or...
Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. If there's one thing that I don't like about it, it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character.
Well, the shoehorn of him all was ridiculously stupid.
Like, and then be like, oh yeah, my middle name's Robin or something like that.
Yeah, and then just to end it at that.
Like
that's not right.
That was them trying to do what they did to Sam Raimi with Venom. They're just like, we gotta get Robin in there. We gotta get.
Well,
Robin
I don't want to, but you gotta. We gave you your money.
To me, he's the weakest. To me, he's the weakest character.
Mine, stir the pot, was Christian Bale.
Really?
Yeah.
And
I am a massive Christian Bale, like unhealthily massive Christian Bale fan. And I think he was the second worst Batman I've seen on screen.
George Clooney being the worst?
No.
Adam West?
Nope.
Val Kilmer?
Pattinson.
Really?
Yeah.
Pattinson?
Yeah.
Huh. I thought you didn't watch that movie.
I tried. I got most of the way through it before I fell asleep. So.
I don't think the movie being too long is the fault of Pattinson.
I don't either. That's not the reason I fell asleep, but I also didn't like his portrayal.
Yeah.
So, look at all the detective work he does in that movie. That's why he's the best Batman. He had other people solve the things for him. He didn't know how to answer the basic riddles and had to ask for help.
He did better than I thought he was going to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was very much like, Heath Ledger's the Joker when the Sparkle guy from Twilight's going to be Batman. Like
Michael Keaton was a comedian before going into Batman.
Right?
So,
well, who did I read that was going to do Batman? And it was like a straight up comedian, like not a serious actor.
I read this too, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I guess the other day I read it, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't Jim Carrey, because that would have been before Jim Carrey was Jim Carrey.
Oh yeah, no, Jim Carrey didn't become Jim Carrey till about 94. So
wasn't Eddie Murphy? Was it? Oh, I think it was Bill Murray. I think they wanted Bill Murray.
Interesting.
Could you? I could be wrong about this. I could be remembering this fact wrong. I'm sure someone will fact check me.
Yeah.
But I feel like Bill Murray was the choice, and could you imagine that?
I love Bill Murray as much as that guy, but that would be awful.
I think they thought when that kind of casting, and I think when Keaton came in, they're just like, oh yeah, we're going to do the Adam West thing. Not realizing like the Danny O'Neill rant had just happened that was so dark and gritty, and Frank Miller stuff had just come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think they'd realized that the comic books had got where they did, right?
I like that, I think it was Jimmy Fallon, that Michael Keaton was on, and it's like, so you played Batman, and this was like only a few years ago. He's like, I am Batman. I'm like, I love it. He still got it.
Hey, have we gone over favorite Batmans? Because I feel like we have. Who's your favorite? It's Keaton, isn't it?
Probably Affleck.
Is it Affleck?
Yeah. Keaton's second for sure. So, although he's my second favorite Batman, he's not my second favorite Bruce Wayne. So
the longer I think about Affleck, like I'm just like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, he's like really doing Batman type stuff, and like I think I'm over Affleck as Batman. Like he just moves so lethargically slow that I guess the longer I have to sit with Affleck, the less I like him as Batman. It's fun watching a Batman that moves around. And Keaton, he moves pretty slow too, to be honest. But...
No, and that's fair. Like, the more I think about it too, he's still my favorite Bruce Wayne, bar none.
Oh, he's a good Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, but, yeah, he could have been a better Batman, you're right. So, there hasn't really been any Batmen that impress me too much.
I got a soft spot for Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer was fun. I mean, Batman Forever is my guilty pleasure of the series.
I think Batman Forever strike the right balance. Because I didn't like the dark and gritty stuff when Batman and Batman Returns came out. So, like, Batman Forever came out, and it was just kind of like, yes, kiddie enough. Though, like, watching Tommy Lee Jones now in that role is almost painful.
And he got mad at Jim Carrey for acting ridiculous.
Oh.
He could have played the Riddler if he wanted. He could have played the Joker if he wanted with that performance.
You know what? I think Tommy Lee Jones could have done an excellent Joker back in the day. After watching him do Two-Face?
Yeah.
Oh, what about the Alien movies? Is there any trilogies left in those? It's always been a quadrilogy, right?
It's always... Well, no. I mean, obviously, before the fourth one came out, that was packaged as a trilogy.
Well, that's same with any movie that has 4 in the series, right?
But,
I feel like the fourth one felt very different than the first two to me. But that's because
the fourth one again?
That was the only Alien movie I've ever seen in the theater, It was Resurrection.
Was it Resurrection?
Yeah. And like, I remember liking it when I was younger, and now that I'm older, I'm just like, wow, this was the worst Alien movie besides from Alien versus Predator.
Really? Because Alien 3 gets all the hate.
I wasn't a big Alien 3 fan, but to admit that Alien 3 is worse than Alien 4, I don't know.
I honestly, I would rank them simply 2 and 1, and they're a close tie to being just as great as the other, just in their own different way, and then skip straight through until Covenant.
Yeah.
Because Covenant was really good.
I could not get through Covenant. I tried.
It's slow. It's super slow, but I liked. It's why I liked AVP, because it was a terrible movie, but I loved how it introduced whatever Bishop company was there, and actually had Lance Henriksen in it as him.
That was kind of cool, actually.
So, but and then Requiem, I just don't talk about, and then
yeah, that was
but. Yeah, I like Covenant quite a bit. I'm really, 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 really excited to see Romulus.
I know, I've heard good things.
Yeah.
I've actually heard good things. So,
and I keep seeing this meme out there. It's like, for those going to watch Alien Romulus, do not be disappointed. There are no Romulans in the movie. Aww.
I really like Prometheus.
Prometheus. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of the other one. I was thinking of it.
And I'm a little disappointed that we didn't actually get, because the intention was always to have that become a trilogy, and then that led into Aliens, and then they just oh, we're scared now because it didn't make enough money. We got to go straight to Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Which I felt like it was a bit of a mistake. You should have built that world a little bit more.
Well, and Prometheus wasn't even called Alien Prometheus. It was just called Prometheus.
Well, because it was just supposed to be subtle little touches to let you know what's in that world, right?
Yeah, that's like when people argued that the movie Life that came out with, I think it was Jake Gyllenhaal or whatever, was supposed to be a prequel to Venom.
Oh, I've seen that argument online. And you know what? I like where they're going with that, because there is some connection there.
Yeah.
But you gotta squint your eyes really hard to see it, right? Life was a good movie. I thought, anyway.
I don't remember it. So obviously it stuck well with me. So
yeah. What else for perfect trilogies?
Well, we were going to talk. Did we talk Star Wars? We did talk Star Wars.
Well, we didn't. We somehow or another skipped over it. We were talking about the trilogy within the trilogies. Is there a perfect trilogy within there? The requels are out, right?
Yeah. There's an argument that the prequel trilogies is a better written trilogy, but the original trilogy, between introducing us to those characters, in that one we talk about the weakest link. The weakest link is Return of the Jedi, only because the first two were so story heavy, and then the third one came out and it was a very two-dimensional story. And it was so much fun. It was great characters. It was a great little wrap up.
I remember when people were like, "Oh my god, Ewoks fucking suck. Ewoks ruined it." And now people talk about "Oh yeah, this is the third greatest movie of all time."
I just remember the Ewoks cartoon back in the 80s. So
Ewoko.
Yeah.
So that was a terrible cartoon.
Yeah, it was.
You see, and that's there's an Ewok. There's 2 Ewok movies, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cavern of Courage. Terrible, terrible movies. But the original trilogy still, to me, Return of the Jedi was always my favorite of those.
Oh, mine too, because I was a kid, and it was geared towards, and more lack of better words, infantile mind.
Well, they're just we're gonna put, I'm gonna dip into your territory here for half a minute. We're gonna put Princess Leia in a gold bikini and be a little slave. Oh my god. If I ever had a childhood crush, it was Princess Leia in that frickin' gold bikini. My god.
Yeah. But no, like I said, it was the weakest written, but it wound up the series beautifully, thus making it a perfect trilogy. And that is, by the way, my answer for a perfect trilogy is the original trilogy.
The original Star Wars trilogy.
Because it starts with a story, it continues the story, it ends the story. That's what a trilogy should be.
What would you think? Where would Star Wars be today if they just ended it there, though? Right?
George Lucas / Disney would not be as rich, but the fans would be very happy.
I don't know if Disney's making...
Not anymore, but... I mean,
Disney was raking it in off the Star Wars, but they did oversaturation. They were
100%.
I remember the hype for the prequels, like the hype for Episode 1.
If you see one movie this year, watch Star Wars. If you see two, watch Austin Powers.
Why is American Pie number 3?
Yeah.
Man, I must have seen that like a million times at Video Updates. A million times. But like.
It was marketed to death. Yeah.
That was probably like I can't think of another movie that had that much hype. Like, I don't even think the Avenger movies had that kind of hype.
Could you imagine
Endgame had a lot of hype.
The Star Wars, like Phantom Menace, how great it would have been without Jar Jar?
You know what? I don't even mind. Jar Jar doesn't bring it down that much for me.
But he doesn't. He could have been taken out, and the movie would have still movied.
Yeah, you could have totally taken him out of there. You know,
and freaking Liam Neeson was outstanding in that movie.
That's my favorite of the prequels.
It is. I mean, I have a soft spot for Episode 3 because it shows how Darth Vader was created, and I'm a big Darth Vader guy, so yeah.
I think I gotta give Episode 2 another chance because I just remember fucking hating Episode 2.
I never got into it. I never could.
I remember there's stuff that I actually liked about it. I guess at the time I was just like, I was too cool for school. I gotta hate on Star Wars. Why'd they make the prequels, right?
I tend to, if I'm bored / wanting to, I'll watch Phantom Menace. But if I feel like watching a Star Wars marathon, I start at Episode 3.
Yeah.
So.
What's the right order, right? Like, do you start at the beginning? Do you not start? Like, do you start at the original?
Well, now, in today's day, you start at Episode 1.
You think so?
Yes. Because, well, that's the thing,
you gotta include Solo and Rogue One.
Rogue One needs to be included. That movie was one of the best non-original movies in the series.
See, I did not fall in love with Rogue One like everyone else did.
I totally did. I totally did.
Man, and Solo?
Solo was good, but not great.
Solo could have been the best.
Casting was perfect.
Oh, yeah, he was spot on. Oh, yeah. And Danny Glover, Donald Glover.
I'm sure now you get it right this week.
thank you, as oh my God,
Lando Calrissian.
I loved him as Lando Calrissian.
Yeah.
Well, they ended with that cliffhanger with Darth Maul too.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why? How did you fuck this up so bad?
And it's funny because you could tell that he had the metal legs in that hologram. So they're following the canon in the books, and everyone's like, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!" Just kidding.
You can sometimes these production places can nail home runs. So I got a question for you on trilogies. Now, I'm going to argue to death on this one. Is Indiana Jones a trilogy?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because like the second two were too far afterwards, right?
Yeah, and that's also in my mindset with things, and that's kind of what deviates the other two diehards from the originals. Is when
because
you go
it's so far,
yeah, if they go so far away, and it's like a different world now, and it's different. That's not part of the original.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is very similar in style. I just think it was not a very well-made movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the problem with Crystal Skull. But it did try to stay a lot of the original style and the original heart of the originals. Failed miserably.
Yeah. Well, I will argue to death that it's the best reasoning out of all. Like how the first one had the grail with the faces melting. The second one had the hearts getting ripped out, the voodoo and all that crap. The third one having or I guess the first one wasn't Grail, it was the Ark. Third one with the Grail where you drink and you meet Eternal. Everyone had no problems with that. They embraced that. And then they talk about aliens, which is the most plausible out of all of them. And everyone's like, oh, it's too fake. What?
Yeah. This guy's face like melting like plastic. Oh, that's super realistic. Yeah. But these aliens flying a spaceship out of a fucking pyramid?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But you said it perfectly. It was just written horribly.
I was on the Shia LaBeouf hate wagon at the time. Like, you could have picked... If they would have picked an actor that could have actually picked up that mantle and went with it, like, Shia was not the one to pick up the Indiana Jones mantle,
no,
right?
He was hot for a hot minute thanks to Transformers. Obviously, he did Holes. He did all those older movies. But he really, like, Newsies, I guess. But he really...
Nobody watched Transformers because he was in it.
No.
Okay?
I watched it, obviously... for Optimus Prime.
Yeah, not Megan Fox,
no.
eh?
Who? No. Not her midriff in the car. No, not at all. So. Oh, midriff. Anyway.
Wait, is that a movie that's a trilogy? The Transformers original ones? Because I feel like the Shia LaBeouf ones is a trilogy.
He's not in the third one, is he?
Yeah, he's in the third one. Megan Fox isn't in the third one.
Oh, is that one?
Yeah.
She was in the second one, though, right?
She was in the second one.
Okay. Yeah.
Not a perfect trilogy. That is
No, not at all. But
they're just like, oh, this is the massive Earth-altering thing. No. This is the new massive Earth-altering thing. Oh, no. It's this completely different thing we never talked about.
I've heard some of the newer movies, like not Beast Wars, whatever the new one was called.
Rise of the Beast?
Yeah. That it was not a bad movie, but I stopped watching after 3.
Well,
so
the Transformers movies, like, started off bad and then got worse and kept making money, and then they stopped making money and then they started getting better.
Well, and
that's what happened with the Transformers movies.
I fanboyed the shit out of the first movie. I was right. Get this. I wrote down on my calendar when that movie came out in theaters so I could watch it.
I was not excited for that movie. I did watch it in the theater.
Yeah, it's such a theater watch.
I felt one of the rare movies I fell asleep in. I still to this day don't think I've seen the final battle between Optimus Prime and Megatron.
Huh.
I'm pretty confident I've never actually seen that because I guess can't make it through that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I fell asleep in the frickin' theater. It was like not my jam. It's sometimes there's big fun stuff, and then there's times there's stuff just like it's too much. It's just garbage on the screen, and that's what I think of Transformers. And I'm not hating on anybody that likes it. Like I understand why someone would love those movies, right? Like it's big robots smashing each other. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like it's not there to wow you with anything except for special effects. And if they can squeeze in a story, maybe.
I was also in my phase where I thought I was a snob about movies at that time too. I've gotten over that as I get older. I'm just like, I guess you guys just got to enjoy a good movie sometimes, or a dumb movie, right?
Yeah, I live by the sword, die by the sword with that. I will knock the shit out of movies I don't like, but again, with me, it's always subjective. If I don't like a movie, it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. I just didn't like it. Well, so thus, in my opinion, because I love my opinions.
Is this a real life opinion?
It's a real life opinion told by a fan and not a critic. That if I don't like a movie, I say it's a bad movie. Is it a bad movie? Not necessarily, but it is because I said so, because I didn't like it. And when I worked at Blockbuster and somebody asked, "Hey, did you like this movie?" I never lied. Like, I didn't try to sell things. I wasn't a salesperson. I was just a worker. So somebody asked, "Do you like this movie?"
Just you were a salesperson.
But either way, did you like this movie?
Were you selling stuff?
No, we were renting. Yeah, and we sold some stuff too. Yes.
Yeah.
But, so somebody's like, "Is this movie any good?" I said, "No." Well, then I'm not going to watch it. Okay. So, and I always say to people, I'm like, "You might like it. It's fine." I couldn't stand it. Well, I'm not going to watch it if you didn't like it. And that's the power I had there. So.
I want to talk about non-trilogies for half a second. Is the Cornetto Trio a trilogy? Like, you know what the Cornetto Trilogy is, right?
Remind me.
Oh, you don't know That is Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
Hot
Yeah.
Fuzz and End of the World, or World's End. Is it World's End or End of the World? Oh god, I can't remember the name of it. I want to say World's End. World's End. And I don't want to call that a perfect trilogy either.
But they're not the same characters in all three.
But it's the same cast.
Yes, but that's like saying Adam Sandler movies are trilogies.
Well, there are certain... Sometimes you can have a trilogy that's not a trilogy. I like that. Like, I like the Once Upon a Time trilogy. That's the Once Upon a Time trilogy is El Mariachi.
Oh yeah.
And,
Desperado and
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah.
Where it's technically not the same character, but it is the same character, right?
Doesn't Antonio Banderas play the same character in all three?
He's not in the first one.
I thought he is El Mariachi.
No, he... fun fact, one of the guys that comes at the end of Desperado with, like, the giant suitcase is El Mariachi from the first one. But he had, like... Desperado is basically a remake of El Mariachi. That's what it is. Kind of like the way that Mad Max is a remake of Road Warrior, right?
Well, and it's also like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. So...
Well, is Evil Dead 2 a remake of Evil Dead?
It's the exact same story. They just add a couple characters.
I guess. I feel like Evil Dead 2 is such a step above.
Oh, totally. I think Evil Dead 1 was like his college project. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, I can make something out of this. So he ended it with the ending that led directly into Army of Darkness and everything like that. So really, Evil Dead 1 is a throwaway movie in that trilogy, but it's still a classic.
So. Yeah, that cannot be a perfect trilogy.
No.
You know what? I love Army of Darkness. And we have a request for that. So that is happening. Army of Darkness is happening, guys, at some point or another. We were talking about our whole request month, so...
Yeah, what are we doing next week?
Maybe let's do Army of Darkness next week, since that was a request.
Sounds good.
That does mean we have to do the Mario movie as well.
Okay.
Because that's been heavily requested as well.
I think my boys requested that when we first started doing this.
Really? That is a...
No, that was 5 nights they wanted. Never mind. Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Well, we did 5 nights. That was a terrible suggestion. Boys, your suggestions suck.
Because they'll be the first to be listening to this. So.
Yeah. I'm excited to do Army of Darkness, so I haven't seen that movie in forever.
That's such a great movie.
Oh, and the Good, the Bad, the Ugly trilogy, or I guess what's it? A few dollars trilogy. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Where it's the same actors, different characters, and I love that trilogy. At some point, I think I'm gonna make us watch that entire trilogy. Like I guess
Westerns bore me to tears.
Oh, but I guess.
But I have a job to do, so.
Yeah, you're gonna do what I tell you. Okay, Corey? Jeez.
Because I liked the Young Guns movies, but those were more sensationalized westerns.
Those are popcorn flicks.
Yeah, but I liked 3:10 to Yuma. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a well done movie. There's an argument that No Country for Old Men would be westerny. There's an argument that Devil's Rejects would be westerny, but not being westerny. So
there's a thing I'm kind of surprised that you're not talking for trilogies.
I think we've had yeah.
Why I'm not the fan you are, so you'll have to tell me why that's not on your trilogy list.
Because really, as far as good, in terms of writing, in terms of everything, as far as good, Devil's Rejects was the only good one.
Really? I never seen 3 to Hell.
3 from Hell? It made me very sad because it was Sid Haig's last movie. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen Devil's Rejects, how he's a big guy, right? And he's very animated and everything like that. In this movie, he literally died like months later. Mm-hmm. He was down to like 100 pounds. And he had some animated moments, but you could see he was sick and dying in real life. And it broke my heart because Sid Haig was such a good man. So
that's tough to see.
Yeah.
But
it was fun. And I love Richard Brake. Richard Brake is as an underrated villain. From 31, Rob Zombie's 31. Absolutely outstanding. A lot of people forget he's been around. He played Joe Chill in Batman Begins.
Really?
So.
Like, I don't even remember Joe Chill being in Batman.
Yeah, he gets arrested and for the murder of the Waynes, obviously. Mm-hmm. So
it's been forever since I've seen Batman Begins.
Yeah, no, he was in one of the Tremors straight to DVD sequels as the bad guy. He was so bad he was good. So
there is so many straight to DVD Tremor movies.
I'm pretty sure the first one was the only one that hit theaters. So.
Yeah. And I think the first one was like lucky that it made it to theaters. Like I remember Kevin Bacon being like, "Oh, my career is over. I'm making movies about giant worms."
Yeah, well, that one became a cult classic in a hurry.
That's you know what? If I had to pick a favorite horror movie, it would probably be Tremors.
It was fun. I mean, obviously, I would never say that myself, but it was so much fun.
I'm surprised you considered a horror movie. Like you allowed me.
It's got a creature.
Huh?
It's got a creature. It's not supernatural, but it's got a monster. So.
Mm-hmm. So like it's not as scary as a T-Rex eating a guy off of an outhouse.
Oh shit!
But like
that makes me feel that. No, it can't be a horror movie because it.
But it does have. There's some good tension building in Tremors.
I think what made Tremors was the dynamic between Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon.
It was a good dynamic,
and the townsfolk were hilarious, each in their own way. Mm-hmm. Michael Gross and Reba McEntire were freaking gems. The two kids, the little girl and the teenage boy, were kind of annoying, but that's okay.
Yeah, when aren't kids annoying?
What's his name? The Asian guy there. He was absolutely hilarious. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I can still turn that movie on when I'm bored.
Didn't the love interest like lose her pants for some random reason in that one?
Oh yeah, well yeah, her. I forget her
what
name.
Was the reason? Why did she lose her pants? Besides, like you have to have a pantless girl in a movie for some reason. In the 80s.
They used it, I think, to flag down something or something.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, it wasn't even that hot.
Oh well, they gotta be like, "Ooh, look at me! I'm in my underwear." Ooh, I hate it when movies do that.
I actually had a chance to buy. It was like a box set of
the Tremor movies.
Almost all of them, like the new ones hadn't come out, but I didn't. I just stuck with the first one. So
I distinctly remember renting the last one, and what's the Guns fanatic's name?
I know Fred Ward or Michael Gross. That's all I know.
Michael Gross.
Burt Gum.
Burt Gum.
Yeah, that's what it was.
He's been in like all of them, right?
Yes.
So like he like dies in the last one, and it's actually a really touching tribute to like all of them at the end when they're just like, okay, we're done with Tremors. Burt Gum is dead, so we're done with Tremors.
Was that Shrieker Island?
Yes, I do.
Because that's actually the one with Richard Brake as the bad guy, and the guy on the island there.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I forgot he was the bad guy. Yeah. I was trying to think about that, if that was him or not.
Yeah,
so
he's big teeth and skinny guy, and he is. Like I used to think he was like, and he's kind of weird looking. He's unconventional, but the more I see him act as a villain, he is spot on in every time he's done it.
So we got to talk about the elephant in the room if we're talking about trilogies.
No.
Lord of the Rings.
No.
No?
No.
See,
subjectively, that is probably the greatest trilogy of all time. Not subjectively, objectively, sorry.
Objectively, greatest trilogy of all time.
Yes.
Like, it's the original Star Wars versus that, really.
Yeah,
objectively.
100%.
Right? Like,
Clerks 2 did it best. Which, speaking of trilogy.
Does the New Jersey trilogy count as a trilogy? Like,
you
Clerks,
could make that argument.
Rats.
That's more of a franchise than a trilogy. But Clerks 1, 2, 3, on the other hand,
I would never put that in my perfect trilogy. As much as I love the Clerks movies, and like it's funny, I hear like a lot of love for 2.
I love 2.
Two is my least favorite of all of them.
It's the least good of the 3, but it's probably my favorite fun one out of the 3. So
I think it's Kevin Smith's favorite movie. Maybe 3 is his favorite now.
Oh, 3 is. I've never been so emotionally gut punched by a comedy in my life. So,
I guess what Clerks does is like you feel like you know these people, right?
Just because they serve you doesn't mean they like you. The original tagline.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever watched a movie franchise where I felt like I personally knew, and I guess the whole backstory to the whole Clerks thing, and Kevin Smith always hiring his friends. Like, I know we talk about, like, oh, Adam Sandler always hiring his friends, but Kevin Smith, I feel, and Adam Sandler does it to help his buddies too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels
and
more
Rob Zombie, same thing.
Yeah. It feels more admirable when Kevin Smith does it though, because his friends aren't big movie stars, except for Ben Affleck, I guess.
Yeah, but there is an argument to be made that Ben Affleck was just as big, if not bigger, without Kevin Smith. So,
well, Ben Affleck's, I think, one of his bigger first roles was in Mallrats, right? Like, I know he was in Dazed and Confused first, but like, he was still a pretty small time when Mallrats came out, right?
Well, the movie that he did with Kevin Smith that really brought out him as an actor was Jersey Girl.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and Jersey Girl gets a lot of hate, and I don't know why. I think that hate's cooled off over the years.
The only hate was everyone's like, oh, this is a Kevin Smith movie. They all are the same Kevin Smith movie. And then Jersey comes out, and it's a serious movie with, hints of comedy. But either way, people are like, well, this isn't a Kevin Smith movie.
That is probably his objectively best done movie.
It's a well done movie.
But he stated before that the cinematographer he got in that movie is like the best cinematographer he ever got, right?
Well, that movie was sold by the cast, and obviously the story. Was it high budget? George Carlin as the dad was phenomenal.
George Carlin is the rest his soul legend, right?
I liked the end with Will Smith. I thought that was a nice touch.
I don't know if I recall the end with Will Smith.
The whole movie, he's trying to, get an interview with Will Smith. But everyone's like, oh, Will Smith's never going to be anybody. He's just that guy from Fresh Prince.
Oh, yes.
He's just a rapper. And then at the end of the movie, he's sitting down and Will Smith sits beside him and they start talking.
I, for some reason, thought you said Will Ferrell when you said Will Smith.
I did not, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had Will Ferrell in my head, not Will Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally, he's not, he just wants to concentrate on his acting now.
Yeah. And that's true because really, it was after that movie that Independence Day came out. And Independence Day was his first real movie. Mm-hmm. So.
Though Fresh Prince was huge.
Well, no, that's why I said movie. I specified a movie because TV, Fresh Prince, he was a god on TV. Mm-hmm. So.
And there was, in the 90s, you could be a huge TV star and you were pretty much a movie star, right? Like, TV in the 90s was different than it is today, right? Like, now it's like failed movie stars that are on TV now, right?
I remember Friends started the trend that each cast member of the 5 got paid $1 million per episode. And people are like, that is astronomical. But then there's only say 12 episodes a season. So, and they're a half hour long. So it's 6 hours. Mm-hmm. So $6 million for essentially 6 movies. Not a lot of money.
Is still more than what you're going to make in the next 10 years.
Yes.
So, is it really not a lot of money? Because
especially back then.
Well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was $1 million was so much money that
they were raking in the bucks for the networks. Mm-hmm. So, for the fact that I didn't even think that show was that good, yeah. So,
I love the Seinfeld Friends thing where I think it was Between Two Ferns or something like that where Seinfeld was on. It might not have been Between Two Ferns, but it was a show like that. Like
a tongue-in-cheek interviewer.
Did you why'd they fire you from Seinfeld? And Jerry goes, you know what happened? I walked away from a lot of money because they were less like throwing the money at Jerry Seinfeld, right?
But when you have a story about nothing, it's got to end sometimes. Mm-hmm.
So we keep getting off this trilogy topic, eh? Actually, we've been pretty good about staying on there. We have our little tangents. We get back on track, right? We're not terrible today.
Original X-Men trilogy.
You know what? The third one was so bad that I can't even. I wasn't even high on the first one, to be honest. The second one was great.
I was a fanboy of the first one, so.
Yeah. Once again, that was back in my snobbish phase, right? Mm. Where I was just like, this movie.
Yeah.
I remember not liking Spider-Man when it first came out. And Spider-Man 2 came out, was phenomenal, and X-Men 2 came out, which was phenomenal as well. Yeah. So, like, I had to, like, get off my snob horse a little bit about superhero movies at that time.
X-Men 3 bothered me so much because of the cure thing. They're taking a cure. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this.
I don't get... They could have had the cure storyline, but why did you do the Phoenix storyline at the same time?
Yeah.
That's what I didn't like.
And granted, they made that other movie, which was not that good, but...
That movie that I've watched and completely forgotten everything about it.
The Phoenix storyline is such a pivotal comic in the X-Men lore. To get the under-the-rug treatment that it got in both versions was a shame.
I feel like it was unearned in the other one. That's a weird franchise because I feel like First Class and Days of Future Past stand as their own two movies. Even though they're technically sequels to the original trilogy and sequels to the next trilogy.
I don't consider them any way connected to the original.
First Class?
Yeah.
How could First Class not be connected to the original?
I know what you're saying. I do, but I just don't. So
when Days of Future Past happened, well, yeah, you can... I think the first three can be counted as its own trilogy. Like, I agree with you there, if that's what you're trying to say.
But no, I just think... I get how First Class came to be derived off of the original, but I just ignore that part of the story and then consider them nothing to do with the original.
So do you know the story behind First Class?
I do. I can't remember right now for the life of me, but I do.
First Class was supposed to be Magneto Origins. That's what it was supposed to be. But Wolverine Origins was so panned that they pivoted and turned it into First Class. Which is not as good as I think everyone says it is.
I honestly don't like any of the James McAvoy ones.
Really?
So, and I like James McAvoy, so that's not it. I just did not like them.
Yeah, you know...
Fassbender was amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Fassbender was almost as good as Ian was.
Yeah.
As Magneto.
Almost.
Like, yeah, it was... Yeah, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
That's really tough. You know, come to think of it, there were scenes I liked in the McAvoy ones, but yeah, for the most part, I don't think I liked any of them either. I think
Deadpool 1. Come to see the professor. McAvoy or Stewart. These timelines are so confusing.
I'm trying to think if there's a McAvoy one I like. I don't even, like, everyone, like, rants and raves about Days of Future Past, but, like, even Days of Future Past, I'm just kind of like, like...
Well, being a purist that I am, and that's usually what causes me to have disdain towards a lot of newer things, is being a purist. The original X-Men were Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Angel, and Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And they've never... Like, they tweaked on having Beast in First Class there and everything like that. But Angel was always an afterthought, and he's such a big character, because his character arc through the series was incredible, because, like, look at Apocalypse, and granted they had X-Men Apocalypse made, but it just wasn't the same. Like, they didn't focus on the pure, and that's me. Again, there's interpretations by the director, by the writer. This is my issue with the DCU, everything like that. I don't like when they shy that much from the source material. That's just a personal thing.
X-Men Apocalypse felt so unearned. Like, if they would have done Apocalypse in the original X-Men universe, I think that would have felt earned. But it didn't feel earned with the younger ones, like that early on either, right? And that was kind of my problem with Dark Phoenix. Like, that movie didn't
feel like you were in that timeline yet.
Yet, I think with Last Stand, they had earned that.
Yeah.
They had earned the Phoenix, right? And then they just dropped the ball so bad, right?
Mm.
With the... Oh, my God. 2 was so good.
2 was one of the... Arguably, to this day, people will say, is the best written Marvel movie, but pre-MCU.
I don't know if best written, hey? Oh, I will say Spider-Man 2 is a better movie.
And that's the only one that argues that. So,
but I'm trying to think if it's a better written movie or not, because you know what? Doc Ock was perfection as a villain in that movie.
Well, Alfred Molina knocked it out of the park.
Oh my god. And he was so well written, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I guess you could say it's contrived that, oh, the mechanism in his neck broke. Like, whatever, like, that's a little contrived. But, man, he was... people say Green Goblin. Doc Ock was always my number one Spider-Man villain. Always. As, like, a big Spider-Man fan growing up, I always thought Doc Ock was the number one Spider-Man villain. And, like, I wish he would get more love. I feel like he got his love in No Way Home, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like...
Well, because when No Way Home came out, people had nostalgically fallen in love with that character like you have. And so they're like, oh, it's great to see him again. And then...
Well, my love for Doc Ock stems from, like, I read Spider-Man after Green Goblin had died, and they hadn't brought him back from the dead yet, right? So a lot of my stories were just like, Doc Ock was number one. You know, even with Venom in there, Doc Ock was number one, right? I know it kind of went like Green Goblin, then Doc Ock, then Venom, but like...
I'm really funny. For being the Venom fan that I am, I never liked anti-hero Venom. I just liked villain Venom.
Yeah.
So...
Well, he was like a perfect foil to Spider-Man.
But he was... That storyline was so short. A lot of people think about that. Oh, Venom is Spider-Man's enemy. He was a bad guy for like a couple years, and then he became an anti-hero for the rest of his run.
He really did. So, have you read any of the what's called King of Black or something like that storyline? It's really good Venom stuff.
Okay,
it's really good. Like, I know you don't like Venom as an anti-hero, but like it's some really good, cool stuff.
Leaf the Protector is arguably the best written Venom storyline.
No, King of Black is
really
by hands down.
Really? Okay. Because I've actually not heard of that one. I've heard of Lethal Protector. I've heard of Agent Venom. I've heard of...
It's fairly new stuff.
Okay.
And I think you'd really like it, actually, because it's got some stuff in it that I think you'd really appreciate.
I will look for it.
But Spider-Man, the original Raimi trilogy, that's a pretty good trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, 3 was not, but...
I love me Spider-Man 3. The problem with Spider-Man 3 is that they didn't stick the landing. And if you took Venom out of that...
Well, that was Raimi giving the studios the middle finger, too.
Well,
because he had the movie 75% written, and they're like, oh, and you need Venom. Well, I don't want Venom. Well, you need Venom, but I'm not putting in Venom. Yes, you are. Okay.
Sandman, I never even... When I thought of Spider-Man villains, Sandman didn't even, rank. And my God... That Sandman stuff was amazing.
He was actually really good. He was. Yeah. Thomas Hayden Church.
That CGI at that time was fucking amazing, right? Like when he's in that collider and he's trying to walk again. Oh, goosebumps. But yeah, too much, and that movie never it just didn't stick the landing. And I didn't like the Harry Osborn stuff that great either. No. But I do... That could have made it a perfect trilogy, right? Because it had that through line of Harry trying to get revenge for his father, right? That's a perfect through line for all the Spider-Man movies.
As far as trilogy criteria, it is definitely a trilogy.
I cannot give it the perfect trilogy treatment because that 3 is just... It does stick out too much, right? Mm-hmm. I just wish they had let Raimi do... Man, I cannot say names today. Raimi! Yeah. My God! I cannot say names today. If they just let him do his thing, that... I would argue all day that's a perfect trilogy.
Well, and even for... again, he added in Venom as a middle finger, like I said. aside from the fact that they pitied Topher Grace the role.
Oh my God, what a terrible casting choice.
They wrote him well enough, but he was portrayed like a freaking cartoon. Not a comic, a cartoon. Like, he was so bad. But they had enough of the actual story in there to make it forgivable, but it was just portrayed awfully.
You know, we don't need to be purists about it, because there's lots of times where, you know, they're not the physical appearance they are in the comic books, because, like, you know, I'll get past my Wolverine grievances, right? Despite they had comic book accurate Wolverine in the movie, and I was so fucking excited. So excited. But, like, Eddie Brock was always kind of like a bigger physical guy.
He was a muscle junkie. Juice monkey, yeah.
And Topher Grace?
Yeah, was
like,
not.
Topher Grace did not have the look nor the acting chops for that. No,
well, you know why he got it, right?
Why did he get it?
Because he was the runner-up for Spider-Man, and they promised him another role.
Oh my God!
That's why I said it was the choice for getting him. I understood why.
Oh man, could you picture another world where Topher Grace was Spider-Man?
Yeah.
I think he could have done it, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
now that I think about it,
could have. So,
like, and it's like, oh, Venom's very Spider-Man-esque. That's exactly what they would have said when they gave it to him. Like, Venom's basically Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because Sony execs are stupid.
Yeah, because they didn't even make him that big, which was a piss off in itself. That's what I loved about the Sony Venom movies, was they had the size down to a pat, they got the face down to a science, but the lack of the symbol just grated at me so badly.
Tom Hardy is not, like, he's not very Eddie Brockish to me, but his chemistry in that movie does work. Those are terrible movies, but
his chemistry with himself.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Because he played the voice of Venom too. So,
but that interaction works, right?
It did. It was quite like, those movies are one step worse than a guilty pleasure, so they're not quite a guilty pleasure. But I will throw them on because I love the chemistry between the symbiote and the host. So
that's going to be a terrible trilogy when that trilogy's done.
Oh yeah. I have not even seen a commercial for this new movie, and it's out in a couple months.
You know what? I've seen it, and I actually looked really good. And then I'm just like, wait a minute. Let There Be Carnage looked really good in its trailer. Wait a minute. Venom looked really good in its trailer.
I don't know who the villain is in this new movie.
Oh, I did see who the villain was.
Yeah,
I think there's like the symbiote animals are after Venom. It looks pretty freaky. You should look at that, but it's not a perfect trilogy.
I will watch it in the theater because I watched the first two in the theater, and so just because. But I will wait for a Tuesday.
I went to the theater just because Danny wanted to troll Andrew about it, and not your Andrew, obviously.
Yeah. Mr. H.
Mr. H. If he's listening, you're probably not. He needs to be invited on this podcast one of these days. We will do a movie that I need to invite him. But, yeah. Danny was just like, oh, yeah, I'm going. And then Andrew wasn't going to go. And I'm like, oh, yeah, even Jeff's going. So that's why I ended up going to that and was like, this movie cannot be saved. This movie is bad.
Well, and Woody Harrelson played a decent Cletus Cassidy.
Did he?
But decent. But it was restrained to a PG movie. And because Cletus Cassidy is an R-rated villain.
I thought both the Venom movies were R-rated.
Were they? Oh, all right.
I thought they were.
If they were, they still did not make Cletus Cassidy R-rated.
No.
And he was not lanky enough to be Cletus Cassidy.
I think Woody Harrelson can play an excellent villain, but I think that was the wrong villain to have him play.
Yeah, it was too bad. I mean, at least they fixed his hair, because when his cameo at the end of part 1 there.
Oh my God, it looks so terrible.
Yeah. Which is funny, because that was more accurate, that hair, but it still looked terrible on him, so.
So, Indiana Jones trilogy.
Didn't we already talk about this one?
Well, we discussed whether or not it was a trilogy or not, but we didn't discuss where it lays. Because to me, now, you know why that's not a perfect trilogy for me? There's no through story. There's no growth or progression through it, right?
Nope.
It is 3 almost perfect movies, which gets a lot of love for me as far as trilogies go. It's probably
There's a whole ranking system based off of them.
Yeah, I've got an entire ranking system. That's how much you can tell I love the Indiana Jones movie. Probably, if I had to pick a favorite trilogy, it would be between that and one other trilogy that I haven't brought up yet. Okay.
Okay.
But it's probably my second favorite trilogy. What? Did you discuss which one would be your favorite trilogy?
Yeah, Star Wars is the favorite. Yeah. So.
Star Wars your favorite?
Yeah.
I thought Star Wars was your perfect trilogy.
Both.
So it's a perfect
but
trilogy.
there is one more choice. I don't know if you were gonna say it or not. But
well, we're here talking about trilogy, so
let's talk about it. Back to the Future.
That's my perfect trilogy.
There you go.
You know what? And it's not my favorite trilogy that I was going to talk about, but that you would say Star Wars is a perfect trilogy. I think Back to the Future is a perfect trilogy because it's got the most continuity all the way through it. Save the Lord of the Ring movies, but like the Lord of the Ring movies, I was it you I was having this discussion with where it's actually one giant book, really?
Yeah.
Where it's not really 3 separate movies with a continual storyline. It's actually one giant movie, right?
Well, and that's exactly what Back to the Future is.
But it's 3 separate movies that can be watched independently with a perfect through story throughout.
Mm-hmm. Like, one ends, the other one begins. One ends, the other one begins.
That makes it the perfect trilogy to me.
Not entirely true. The first one, Back to the Future, ends, and then the second one starts about 5 minutes before the first one ends and then continues. Whereas...
Well, and that's the same with the third one.
Yeah. So it's as far as that goes, it's not a through movie, but it's close enough. So.
Mm-hmm. But it's 3 distinctly separate movies, though.
Yeah. Past, future, past.
Yeah, past.
Yeah.
People shit on 2 a lot, eh?
2 was my favorite for being... Again, I'm a sucker for a good popcorn flick. 2 is the most popcorn flick of the bunch. But I enjoyed 2 the most. I
feel like 2 is the most iconic. I used to think 3rd was the worst, but you know what? I don't think 3rd is the worst. I like 3rd, actually, to be totally honest. Do you like the 3rd one?
3rd is the worst, but only because something has to finish first, something has to finish last. So I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm saying out of the 3, it is my 3rd favorite.
It's the most straightforward out of all of them. But it's also... Well, it pays off. 2 pays off, or 3 pays off 2 a lot, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff in 2 that if you're careful and watch, that's what makes them the perfect trilogy. Because, like, I had this discussion at work. Andy Haynes, if you're listening, buddy, I'm gonna give you a shout out at work. Back to the Future, perfect movie in his opinion.
Okay.
And like, where's the fat on that movie? There's like very few. There's very.
Are you talking about like part 1?
Yeah, part 1.
Part 1's a little overacted, but otherwise it's great. So.
Well, it's got Christopher Lloyd in it. What do you expect?
Well, everybody, every single person, from Jennifer to Mr. Strickland to freaking Crispin Glover to Leah Thoms, everybody overacts just a little bit too much in that movie. But otherwise, it's perfectly fine.
Do you think Crispin Glover overacts in that
Crispin
movie?
Glover only knows how to overact. I've never seen Crispin Glover do anything serious in my life.
Like, I feel like that's one of his more subdued roles, to be
Which
honest.
is scary. You ever watch The Wizard of Gore?
Can't say as I have.
Oh, no. It was... Anyway.
You know what needs to become a trilogy? And I am down for this. Gremlins needs to become a trilogy.
100%.
Gremlins 2 has gotten a lot of love in the last couple years.
I freaking love that movie.
I remember people hating that movie, and I fucking love Gremlins 2 too.
I think what impressed me is Joe Blow, idiotic movie fan, will look at the second one and say, it's not the same as the first. Who made the second movie? It was the same guy.
Oh, it feels so different, right?
Yeah, it does. But
that was on purpose.
It was on purpose, because he realized, / Steven Spielberg realized, that the first one wasn't taken seriously. They tried to make a legit horror movie out of it, and it wasn't taken seriously. So, they made the second one as a, you know what, screw it, let's just have fun with these guys.
Yeah, the first Gremlins became so iconic, and I like the second one is like an afterthought, and I fucking love the second one. It's so goofy. Well, and it's a good kind of goofy. Like, it's enjoyable goofy, right?
I think what's funny is that and Poltergeist. Movies that were directed by hardcore horror directors that turned out to be family horror movies. And I've used that term before, family horror movies. Because Joe Dante did Gremlins, and Joe Dante did The Howling back in the day. And that was a straight-up werewolf horror movie.
The Howling I could not get through as a kid.
It's not great. But, and then...
Poltergeist was Spielberg.
Poltergeist was Tobe Hooper, who did
really?
Texas Chainsaw, like the original Texas Chainsaw.
I don't think I've ever actually seen Poltergeist. It's gonna have to go on the list.
What?
Yeah, it's gonna have to go on the list.
Back when I was writing for the newspaper, I actually did the old one versus the new one, dueling article.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of.
Which one came out on top? Oh, I've never seen either one, so how do I know?
That's fair. Sorry. If you would have saw the look I just gave him, it makes less sense now forgetting that he hadn't seen it. So
if we ever get Mike back, we're going to do a battle of sorts. It's going to happen.
I do not want to watch the remake again.
No, it won't have to be a Poltergeist. It'll be something else. But there will be a battle and there will be judges. So.
Oh my.
Yeah. Everyone that's just like, it's so nice and peaceful on the podcast. This is nice. There's no arguing. Everyone's getting along. That's gonna end one of these days again, people. That's going down the drain. The look on Corey's face right now is like it's of dread.
I think we need to put a kibosh on the future plans of the DC versus Marvel because there will be blood. So.
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't have to be DC versus Marvel, okay? But I do think that will end up in fisticuffs.
Yeah, there will be a body count. Yeah, but I will gladly do Poltergeist again. I love that movie. Like, that's in my top 5 favorite horror movies. So,
speaking of Marvel and DC, is there any trilogies within DC? Like, is Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League? Is that a trilogy?
Yes. It's more of the Zack Snyder trilogy, but it's still a trilogy, so...
Now, that's... We all know my thoughts on it. We all know your thoughts on that. It's far from a perfect trilogy, right? Mm-hmm. Though it did have... There is some interconnectedness. It had some potential, right? Mm-hmm. Some of Zack Snyder's ideas were very grandiose and, could have been brilliant. I want to take it to the Marvels for half a second. My favorite trilogy of all time. I can't quite call it a perfect trilogy.
Don't say Thor.
No, definitely not. There's 4 of those movies.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing's definitely not a trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's 4, and they're very much... No, this is 4.
Yeah.
Captain America's up there.
Yes. America, the first... what is it? The first... No, what was it?
The first Avenger.
The first Avenger was incredible.
Weakest of the 3.
But it's still incredible. The second one was outstanding. Winter Soldier.
Oh my! Winter Soldier, for the longest time, was considered the best superhero movie of all time.
I know.
Long-standing time, right?
Still an argument there. And then Civil War was just a lot of fun.
I
honestly, you know what? The more I think about it, Captain America trilogy and Star Wars trilogy are the exact same trilogy. Not for story, but for the waves, peaks and valleys.
Where it started off strong and then got really good
and then petered.
And petered. Well, we talked about it with the Nolan Batman.
Yeah,
right. Like the same thing happened there. Well, and we kind of made the argument for what we both kind of said was one of the perfect trilogies with Back to the Future. That kind of petered out at the end too, right? Mm-hmm. Like Lord of the Rings is one of the few trilogies where it's at a high standard the whole way through.
I told you that Lisa was watching those the other day. Mm-hmm. God, they look terrible. Like, I am not into fantasy. Like, I cannot... Again, I will never say they're bad movies. Obviously, the Academy knows what they're talking about. The fans know what they're talking about. All this stuff, I hate them. So
I cannot say they look bad, and I'm not a big fantasy or...
Oh, the special effects did not hold up after she was watching. I was like,
You don't
they're
think so?
awful. They are absolutely awful.
I feel like you're incorrect about that. Were you watching it in 4K?
No, but that could have been it. I was watching on DVD on a 4K TV. So maybe it, you know how that happens where...
Yeah, sometimes some of that imaging does not...
Translate.
Yeah.
Or transfer, I guess.
It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. But I do not remember the CG being bad. I remember that being still holding up CG. But it's been a hot minute, right? So you could be right.
I have the... It's just the theatrical versions, but I have the box set on DVD of the 3 if you want to borrow it and see your thoughts. But yeah.
Man, that was always the thing.
You have them in your box, don't you?
Yes, I do have.
Yeah,
I have a mini Blockbuster at my place, Biff Way, and Laura does as too. So
Laura's
if you
kind of like a half a Blockbuster.
Well, yeah, she's got to nail that to the ground. I think hers is more of a movie gallery than a or maybe it's a Camro's video store. Yeah. For me, it doesn't get the perfect trilogy, but the movies are good all the way through. You know what? And fuck it. Some people are going to say 2's not as good, but I disagree with them. Guardians of the Galaxy. That trilogy, and I would put Back to the Future above it just because the consistent quality and consistent storytelling with Back to the Future, there is a slight drop in quality in 2 and 3 in Back to the Future. I will admit there's a slight drop, but there's still a lot of consistency on a really good movie with Back to the Future 2 and 3. Guardians of the Galaxy, I love and will fight anybody on this, each and every single one of those movies.
See, what I would do is I would go straight up for the first one. Like, the graph would go straight up for the first one. Plateau, not drop, but plateau for the second one. And then go straight up from the plateau for the third one.
I don't know if it would go straight. I hold the first one so high that it's a straight plateau right at the roof for me with those 3 movies. It's there, and then it stays there, and then it stays there for me. Okay. But I've got an emotional connection. The music out of the first Guardians movie is is that from outside? Cool.
It's storming again. We're not going storm chasing this week.
No,
but it's storming
what
again,
the heck? So. The sound quality on that was terrible, by the way.
Yeah, well, I did listen to it on my road trip there. I said I was going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wow, that rain was coming down.
Well, we didn't even lead into it. So it's like, blah, 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 storm! Well, all of a sudden we're driving. Why are we driving? I don't know.
We were having technical difficulties that day, okay? There was some issues going on. It was a bad day,
but that's okay.
Yeah, that'll happen. I was out till 1 o'clock in the morning that night at work.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. I've got a deep emotional connection to Guardians 1. And then I developed a deep emotional connection to Guardians 2. And I actually have the least emotional connection to number 3, which is funny that you say that one's so high.
It's my favorite one of the bunch, so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like that story with Rocket. Oh my God.
Who thought we would care about a raccoon, an otter, and a rabbit as much as we did, let alone a talking tree?
Oh.
Who didn't really talk.
You know what those movies did well? They took heart to every single one of the characters, and they concentrated on Quill, right? Yeah. That's what it kind of looked like when Second happened.
Yeah.
And but then they pivoted to Rocket, right? And I want to say there was such a good sister relationship in the second one between Nebula and Gamora, right? You think the emotional core is Peter in that one because of his father, but there's an emotional core with Yondu. There's an emotional core with Rocket in that one. The first one.
Oh yeah, that was the second one. The Yondu story, yeah.
Yeah, Yondu is almost the emotional core in the second one, right? In the first one, Groot was the emotional core of that one, right? like that ending there where he like gives up his life, and you could like see how it killed Rocket because like
he's the only person he ever grew attached to that was not killed, as you find out later. So
yeah, and like it pays that off, right? Like why Rocket hated people so much, yet he was so attached to Groot, right? Groot was a lumbering idiot in that first one, right? But
and he was a semi-lumbering child in the second one. So
well, and that's another beautiful thing they do with those is like, you love the Groot character in the first one. We're gonna give you something completely different in the second one. Oh, you love the second one? You love him being a little baby? We're gonna give you something completely different in the third one, right?
So who was your least favorite character in the trilogy?
Of that trilogy?
And this time, overarching character.
Oh, well, I was going to say Ronan, but my least favorite of the overarching characters, guess slightly, Gamora.
Yes, that was my answer too.
She's the weakest.
She didn't have a lot of character development for the fact that, she went from meeting him, falling in love with him, and then not knowing who he is. That was a neat story, but she wasn't the reason it was good. The writing was good. She was mediocre.
I feel like they could have done 3 without her.
Yes.
And I think that would have meant more. And then I didn't like that they kept her after Endgame. Like, you could have got rid of her after Endgame, and it didn't need to be explained. Like, I don't know. And, like, they could have... I'm glad they didn't set up Nebula to replace her.
Yeah.
Which I thought for a hot minute...
They toyed with it for a second there. Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah. It was like... And I almost think that was like well, we could do this, No, we better not.
Yeah.
We better not. You know what? That almost gets my perfect trilogy.
Okay.
It almost... Because it's so friggin' high. It's so high. When we do our countdown... Because we're going to, one of these days, when we get the gang back together, we're going to do a countdown of our 3 favorite trilogies.
Oh, see, I was going to see if you want to do that at the end here. To do it as a wrap-up.
Well, I would like to get the gang back together, but we can. Okay,
let's... Just top 3 favorite, not best, favorite trilogies.
We could do that. Am I allowed to pick non-trilogy trilogies?
Yes.
Okay. So, Corey, we're getting a little long in the tooth here in this conversation.
Yeah, this has been a long one for our last couple, so...
The original Terminator movies, are they a trilogy?
No.
You don't think 1, 2, and 3 is a trilogy?
Not really.
I feel like they're the
most... I guess, because it really jumps the shark after the third movie, so...
Well...
Which is scary how much they jumped the shark in the third movie, so... But yeah.
I'm surprised they literally didn't have Arnold jumping a shark in that third one. They had him wearing Elton glasses.
Yeah, they did. Talk to the hand.
That's what we should do for Judgment Day this year, is Terminators 3.
All right.
When's Judgment Day?
August 29, 1997.
Well, we just have to go back in time.
Yeah.
Instead of Army of Darkness, we might be doing...
And if nothing else, Christiana Loken is so hot.
Yeah.
You should see her now. Like, I saw, they do that whole, 1999 or whatever, and then 2024. She's still amazing. So...
I get annoyed when they, put girls in movies for looks. I get annoyed by that.
You mean there's other reasons?
Yeah, sometimes women can act.
I mean, can they, though? They make a good sandwich, I hear.
Yeah. Oh.
And there goes the other half of our listeners.
Yeah. We're going to get angry phone calls from Chelsea.
I'm excited.
Oh, it's a good thing Laura doesn't listen to the podcast, right? You guys said what? Oh.
That's funny. Yeah, so counting down 3 favorite trilogies. This will be basically our final thoughts because I think we're done here, so.
I think we're done too.
But yeah, so honestly, to your point, number 3 for me would be Guardians.
Number 3 would be Guardians for you, eh? Number 3 for me would be the Cornetto trilogy.
Okay.
Yeah, the Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg,
Nick Frost.
Nick Frost.
Yeah.
I guess It's been a while since I've watched Shaun of the Dead, and that's just one of my all-time favorite movies.
I only love that movie as much because I hate British movies, but I only love that movie as much as I do because the amount of horror referencing in that movie, like the Easter eggs, are phenomenal. Like so underrated, so tongue in cheek, so behind the radar that unless you're a fan, you don't get them.
That's the way that whole trilogy works.
But the first, it was horror, right? Like so,
it was horror,
police movies.
I think it was action. Maybe it was just police movies. I don't know. It was horror, action / police movies.
Yeah,
and then aliens, right?
Yeah.
Which, oh my god, I think they lose a lot of the tongue in cheek for the alien movies by that one, but they're still like tongue in cheek is in the nods to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably not as many. Well, I don't know. The alien movies almost have a more diverse than zombie movies, though, eh?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in Hot Fuzz that is just like action tropes, and they just turn them on their head, right?
Yeah. And that, yeah, I'll give them credit for, but like I said, I can't get into British comedy, but...
Have you heard what cops say about Hot Fuzz?
No.
They commend it for its accuracy. You know why? Because it's a cop movie that dictates the paperwork. They're just like, you're so right. It's all about the paperwork. And I love how that's whole
always
movie
swept under the rug in cop movies. So.
That movie is like all about the paperwork until the final end. And it's like all of a sudden he's a super cop, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess he was always kind of a super cop, but like he was super at his paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah, that I have no problems saying that that's a great choice. So my number 2 would be Back to the Future. I grew up with trilogy. It was fun. It had the overarching story. It really is, as trilogies go, one of the more perfect trilogies for sure. So
it's not gonna make my top 3, but yeah, it would be my argument for a perfect trilogy if I had to make the argument, right? Yeah. My number 2, and I'm very torn on this. Which one's number 1 and which one's number 2? But I think I gotta go with Guardians as my number 2.
Okay.
I want to make it my number 1, but I'm looking at my number 1 and I'm just like, it's so very close. You ask me on a different day, these two will change. Okay.
It's like a 1A and 1B.
Yeah, and we just talked ad nauseum about Guardians, so like I sang "Come and Get Your Love" at my wedding. That is how much, and that is purely because of Guardians. Like that movie it means, the soundtrack itself means so much to my own life. Like I'm a music guy who gets, music runs my life, right?
Oh yeah. I feel you.
There have been so many road trips with my wife and my family out to BC that have lived off of that soundtrack, right? And then same with Guardians 2. That soundtrack is played on the road trips out to BC, and it feels like we haven't done as many of those trips as we used to do. So I haven't done Guardians 3 as a road trip, but I think we'll get back there one day. We'll get back there, and the Guardians 3 soundtrack is not as big in my life, but those movies and that music is just an impact.
Okay.
What's your number 1 favorite trilogy? Not your perfect trilogy, but your favorite trilogy, Corey?
Star Wars.
It's both,
original trilogy.
It's both the perfect trilogy and your favorite trilogy?
Yes.
I love how that's a trilogy of trilogies.
Yeah.
Don't you kind of love that?
Like we said, it's either Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. You can't like both equally. You like one more than the other every time, and I'm Star Wars 100% of the time.
I would have a hard time arguing it's a perfect trilogy, but it does have a really good story arc through.
What I like is when a second movie can be so meaty and so substance-filled and go in the middle of 2 average movies, and by doing that, raises the caliber of the first and the third.
Is the first one considered an average movie?
Kind of is. It's not a fantastic story, so...
I feel like... But that movie was a revelation when it happened.
When it happened, absolutely. But in the long and the short of it, it's still just a space soap opera. So...
Well, that doesn't change in the second one, though.
But in the second one, like I said, so much concentration on the writing that it just became such a great movie. And it's... I mean, the X-Men is the argument there, right? The Captain America is the argument there. Like, when a second movie can be so good... Even Aliens.
It raises all boats.
It raises everything, yeah. So
it's kind of funny because, like, sequels, a long time in Hollywood, sequels was a dirty word, right? Like, nobody wanted to do sequels.
Well, they make fun of that in Scream 2, coincidentally.
Yeah.
So, and then Randy's answers were both Cameron movies. Terminator 2, which is obviously my choice, and then Aliens were the two best sequels in the movie world. So...
Well, and doesn't he dismiss Empire because it's part of a trilogy?
Yes. Yes, he does.
Which is funny because Aliens 3 was out at that time.
Yeah.
I guess Terminator 3 wasn't out at that time though, but and Scream ended up being a trilogy.
Yeah.
That was a good trilogy, I thought, the first one. I will have to give 4 a watch under your recommendation.
I'm not actually out of all of them, 3 is my least favorite.
Well, it's my least favorite, but I've only seen 3 of them, so...
Yeah, smaller sample size.
Mm-hmm. Was it 6 that you were, like, gushing over?
I wouldn't say gushing over, but I think as far as being a complete spin-off, like, there was no Nev Campbell, nothing. It was still a well-done movie. Again, the reveal was lame as fuck. But the rest of the movie was well done. So
that's the one in New York, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when a franchise needs to go to New York, it's like it's on its dying legs.
I mean, Jason 8 went to New York, and they still made like 3 more after that.
Well,
so.
Yeah,
not including the remake.
It was on its dying legs, though.
Yeah, it was.
I guess Muppets Take Manhattan was that the end of the Muppets? I don't know. Probably not.
I love that movie.
Of course you would. My number 1 trilogy, probably to the shock of nobody, Indiana Jones.
There you go.
Like, enough said.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not a perfect trilogy because of the storyline, but like, how do you not love those movies?
No, they were exactly what everybody wanted them to be, and in a day where Hollywood didn't care about people's thoughts and just made their own movies, they catered to everybody, and it paid off.
Yes, they did. But I guess it's that time, Corey. Do we need final thoughts?
No, that was our final thoughts, I think.
That was our final thoughts?
We can't do the videos where it belongs in the video store. We can't really do a final thoughts. We kind of cover final thoughts throughout what made a trilogy, etc. So yeah, we're done here.
Oh, so now I have a mini blockbuster.
Yeah, you do.
You got a mini blockbuster.
I'm getting a lot. I'm pimping mine out though, so you need to start pimping yours out. I'm getting a lot of people interested in sponsoring. Again, I've got the person wanting to build me a bigger box. I've got somebody who actually might be giving me cash donations.
Do we need to start giving these people some shout outs on the podcast?
I will definitely give out the database in Tofield a huge shout out. They supplied me with a good chunk of the movies, and he said we'll continue to do so. He's going to be moving to Camrose soon, and we're going to be partnering up a lot closer. Josh, if you're listening, thank you for being amazing, and maybe one day we'll get you on the show. The Man Shed, which is basically a bunch of retirees looking for stuff to do. They're actually right now, like we talk about the Bailey Theater all the time, they're doing the new chairs for the Bailey, and so that's why they haven't made my box yet. But they're hard at work, again, on their own time, doing this. So they're an amazing bunch of guys. They're going to make me a new box when the time fits in. I'm not holding them to it because why would I force somebody who's doing it out of the goodness of their own hearts, although I'm giving them money for it. Yeah, there's a one place. I can't remember their name right now. They just opened up. They're a locksmith place. I can't remember their name, but they're going to be giving me some stickers to put in the box. They're going to be new.
Well, good shout out. Can't remember their name, but
I'm pretty sure it's Wild Rose Lock and Key.
That sounds incorrect to me.
I don't know,
but I can't remember the name either. Yeah. So I'm not going to help you out on that.
They were talking to you, not to me. Once they get me the sticker and everything, I can talk from there. There's a lady
talking about Rose City Tinting.
Yeah, Thomas at Rose City Tinting. If you're listening, thank you. He's going to be making some logos for my box there. Mm-hmm. He makes a really quality logo. He does tinting fittingly.
I heard he snubbed my box. What the heck, Thomas? You'll do Corey's, but you'll snub on mine, eh?
How much money would he not have if he just did everybody's? Well, I guess, so.
Yeah, it's not like we're doing 1 million boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I'm joking, Thomas. I'm joking.
Yeah,
appreciate your help.
He's a really good guy. There's a girl who has a company for, I think it's like pet treats, who wants to get back to me on some stuff. So
once again, you gotta start learning these names.
Well, like I said, they haven't got back to me yet, so they shouldn't even be in the shout out part yet.
Yeah, you're going a little too far.
Yeah, but anyway, thank you everybody. My Instagram is terribly slacking, as my kid likes to remind me, but check us out on Instagram. Facebook is where it's at if you want to see most of the stuff. Real life opinions.
Do we give Mike and the Infinite Imagination crew a shout out? Yeah, that cheap bugger. He's not getting any money. I talk to the treasurer of that organization. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, right? Seriously. I've got the bank card.
Sweet. Hey, Mike, you're sponsoring the podcast tonight. But they're doing Shakespeare in the Park this weekend, I do believe.
Yeah, this weekend.
And then off to the Bailey.
Friday and Saturday, and then the end of the month. So.
And then we're going to do the Gong Show from there, which me and Corey are going to be a part of, which super excited about.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, actually.
Yeah, we're not gonna spill the tea about that. No,
you have to come see us.
Yeah. Oh, well, now that we've covered all the Facegrams and Instabooks, No,
it might be a little off.
I don't know where I went wrong there. What about X?
I think didn't I create one and then I just said fuck it.
X.
Yeah.
So extreme.
Yeah.
That's what Elon Musk needs to do. Now that he's called it X, he's got to change it to extreme.
Need a picture of like Triple H or Shawn Michaels going like this.
Oh.
All right. Well, I got nothing else, Jeff.
I got nothing else.
All right. Let's have a good night. Take care, everybody.
Love you all.
See you later.
Is that it?